Khan. All right, Shalom, Ezra, Shalom, Yasha Brother Atazwan, Gabar, coming back at his precepts. And yet, another cold cut, giving the cross all and glory to Yahweh, by Shema Mashak, Wabalak Yahweh, Ataz, Daki the righteous, good and mighty, Kapar Kabayim, Lazaquayim, Bayat Hadawad, right? That's double honors to the elders of the house of David, that's been laboring and doing this truth, patiently waiting for the second come of our Lord, Mashak, Wabalak Yahweh. We're also giving a strong Shalom, right? While Yahweh Shema Yahweh, Brakatham, to all the mighty occupant on the highways and byways, laboring and pushing his truth to the four corners of this earth in sincerity, in the highways, byways, and hedges. Also to the men coming into this truth, building themselves up through the Spirit, taking notes, precepts, watching the videos, exhortation, and building themselves up to go out on the highways and byways. I bid you all a strong shalom as well. Right, as well as giving a hearty shalom. Why Yahweh Shema Yahweh Thumb to all the aqua in this truth, married and unmarried, reverencing their husbands, raising children, decently and in order, steadfast, laboring through this truth, working with their hands, giving alms, charities, feeding the men of the Lord, teaching the young women, and magnifying this truth through thy many offices in the Lord. I bid you all a strong, hearty shalom, as well as giving a strong, hearty shalom, right? While Yahweh Shema Yahweh Barak washing my thumbs, all the banyim, all the children in this truth, right? Honoring thy mother and thy father, being built up and steadfast in the law, statutes, commandments, being a light and pillar, right? To the world of darkness, all Israel, I bid you a hearty shalom. So through the Spirit, right? Through the Spirit, right? We're going into the second ADAR, right? The second ADAR. All right, you got so-called uproars, okay, a lot of questions, and a lot of brothers and sisters that desire the answers, right, and sincere milk of the word, right. So we're going into the second ADAR, and why is it so important, right? Why is the second ADAR needed, and to be able to understand it, right? So first and foremost, to be able to understand the second ADAR, you will have to understand what type of people that our forefathers were, right? And how the Most High has seasons and has times set up, all right? So first and foremost, we're going to kick it off with the book, right, of Slakia. All right, actually, we're going to start with Esther. All right, we're going to start with the book of Esther. Okay, right, because Adar, it takes place when? It takes place, right, during the wintertime. All right, so this is the book of Esther, chapter 9 and verse number 15. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand, but the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew their foes 75,000, but laid not their hands on the prey. All right, it reads, on the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of that same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Slakia. Right, Khan. Right, and Slakia. The month of Adar, which is during this time of Esther, right, is going into Purim, right? The time that our forefathers had rest from our enemies, right? It was a day of feasting, a day of gladness, a day of mirth, man. All right, but this is going into, right, the last, or the so-called end of the year. All right, let me jump down to verse number 21. It reads, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day at the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, and that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts towards the poor. Right, so even Slakia, during this time, right, our forefathers, right, during this time of winter, right, during this time of Pur, right, our forefathers, right, they sent, right, gifts one to another, right, at a yearly fashion, right, during this month of ADAR, right. And these months, they all have what? They all have spiritual meanings, right? They're all dealing with agriculture in some way or form, right? Slack it. Let me get this in the blue letter. All right, let me get this in the blue letter. All right, let's go to the book of Esther. All right, chapter 9 and verse number 21. All right. All right, let's go into this month Adar. All right. So the month Adar, right, Slakia, right, means glorious, right? Glorious, corresponding to, right, the so-called modern, Slakia, modern March or April, right, going into, right, the Strongs. It says, meaning dubious, perhaps be darkened, eclipsed, right? So when you're dealing with the wintertime, right, you're dealing with a time of darkness, right? That springtime, when life becomes to spring forth, right, to grow, right, to flourish, right, that is that is that time, right, or the season of life, right, or of growth, right? Now let's go back, right, to the book of Genesis. All right, let's go to the book of Genesis. All right, it's the book of Genesis, chapter 1, and I'm starting at verse number 14. It reads, and the Most High said, "Let there be lights in the firmament to divide let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." Right, so the lights, right, the sun, the moon, right, are all distinguished, right, for different purposes, man. Right, and one chief thing is for what? Right, the moon, right, it lets you know what certain time or what seasons that you are in. Right, your sun, which comes on a continued pattern, right, it lets you know what days that you are in. And one is set up for the day, right, which is what is divided for, and one is set up for the night. All right, let's get that real fast in the blue letter. All right, Genesis 1 and 1. Slack 14. All right, Genesis, right, and we're going to touch on all of these and go in depth, right, dealing with the sun and moon. All right. Right, so we have seasons, right? A fixed time or season, specifically a festival, conventionally a year, by implication an assembly, right? Right, so you have certain assemblies, certain festivals, certain feasts that takes place certain times of the year, right? The same way how you have certain moons or certain signs that the Most High would put or would appear, right, for certain times of agriculture, right? It reads, an appointed, it's like the usage, appointed place, time, meeting, right? Appointed time, sacred feast, set feast, appointed season, appointed meeting, place, sign, or signal, right? So you didn't have so-called giants, right? Your Walmarts, your Safeways, right? Your so-called big BJ's and Costco's, man. Right, there was certain times and certain seasons when you had to plant, when you had to go and harvest your crops. Okay, when it was time to seed and to break up the field, right, thereof. All right, let's go back to that in Genesis. Right, so that there's certain times and certain seasons that the Most High has set up and appointed. Right, verse 15, it reads, "And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And the Most High made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He also made the stars, and the Most High set them up in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And the Most High saw that it was good, man. All right. So you have 2 great lights, man. But one light is greater than the other, right? Greater, right? Meaning Slakia. All right. Let's get that real fast. Right? Because if it's greater, right, it prevails. It stays in its season, right? Maybe longer, stronger, faster. All right, let's get into it. All right, Salaki. Right, this is greater, the Hebrew word, right? H14, Salaki, 19. Right, it reads large in number and intensity. Right, so the so-called sun, right, it has more intensity, right? It runs a longer, right, and even a faster course, man. Right, it's stronger, right? And we're gonna get into that real fast too. Right, we're gonna get into the moon and the sun, right? Because they both operate in 2 different courses. Right, let's read that again. It reads, "And the Most High made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night." So you have one light that is set up for what? The daytime, and that's the sun. All right, let's get a precept on that too, and then I'll come back to it. Shalaki. Let's go to the book of Sirach. Sirach, chapter 33, and verse number 7. It reads, "Why do one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun?" Right, so every day of the year is what? It is of the sun, man. Right, it's not of the so-called it's not of the so-called moon, right? The so-called stars. Every day of the year is of the sun. Right, it reads, "By the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts." Right, now let's jump into, right, Slaki. Right, we got articles, right, dealing with the sun and the moon, right? Because the Lord said what? That every day, right, that the light of every day is determined by the sun. Right, so you have the solar calendar. Right, it says solar calendar, any dating system based on the seasonal year. Right, and this is from Britannica. Right, Britannica.com. A lot of history, right, science, dating, right, is found, and sources are used for this site as well. Right, Slack. So the solar calendar, any dating system based on the seasonal year of approximately 365 and a quarter days, the time it takes the earth, right, so-called, to revolve once around the sun. The Egyptians appear to have been the first to develop a solar calendar using a fixed point the annual sunrise reappearance of the dog star Sirius or Sothis in the eastern sky, which coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile River. They constructed a calendar of 365 days consisting of 12 months of 30 days each, with 5 days added at the year's end. The Egyptians' failure to account for the extra fraction of a day, however, caused their calendar to drift gradually. Right. So even these quote unquote different nations, they understood how the Most High had the ordinances or had the sun to move inside of a continuous course, right? And we're going to touch on it, right? But it says, however, caused their calendar to drift gradually into error, right? So if you don't properly factor in, these days, or factor in, between the solar calendar, between and the differences of the lunar calendar, which we are getting ready to touch on next, then your feast days, your seasons would literally be all out of whack, and all things will eventually fall into order. So it's will actually fall out of order, and all hell will break loose. Right? It reads, Ptolemy the third Euergetes of Egypt, in the decree of Canopus 237 BC, introduced an extra day every 4 years, which is going into that so-called leap year, Why every so-called fourth year you have an extra day in February, You got 366 days, Because it's so-called 365.25 days, according to the cycle of the sun, It reads, introduce an extra day every 4 years to the basic 365-day calendar. This practice also having been introduced in the Seleucid calendar, adopted in 312 BC in the Roman Republic, Julius Caesar in 45 BC replaced the confused Roman Republic calendar, which probably was based on the lunar calendar of the Greeks, with the Julian calendar. It reads that the Julian calendar assigned 30 or 31 days to 11 months, but fewer to February. It allowed for a leap year every 4 years. So that's where you get your so-called leap year, in February, that extra day coincided inside of that month, Now, let's go back to this, Let's do some so-called math, real fast. So 300, we're going to do 365, 365, slocking, and that's going to be for our solar. This is going to account for our solar, So your solar calendar is so-called 300, and 65.25 days. Right now, let's go to the lunar, dealing with the same site. It reads, lunar calendar, says any dating system based on a year consisting of synodic months, i.e. complete cycles of phases of the moon. So you have, again, you have your so-called sun, which controls your everyday, and then you have your moon, which does what, which controls your so-called seasons, Let's read that again, in the book of Sirach 33 and verse number 7. Why doeth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun? By the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. Now let's go to the book of Sirach, the 43rd chapter, because your moon determines what? Your seasons and feasts. Okay. All right. Go on the book of Sirach, chapter 43 and verse number 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of the feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Right, so the moon, it does what? It increases in its light, and it also what? Decreases. Right, so the phase or the so-called a moon, right, operates at a different level and on a different capacity, right, as the sun doeth. Right, it reads, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament. Right, so not only, right, does the operation of the moon, right, change, right, from coming from a complete darkness, right, which is your new moon, right, increasing in that thing, right, but then, right, once it comes to its fullness of capacity, right, it decreases. Right, you go from a moon that is waxing, right, to a moon that is waning. Right, that's what it means, a light that decreaseth in her perfection, because that moon at its perfection is what? The full moon. Right, that's when you have that full brightness. All right, and then, right, and for those who know or may watch the operation of the moon, right, the moon it comes into what? Its fullness around that 15th day, so-called. Right, around the so-called 15th day of your month is when the moon comes into its fullness, and then it waxes down. Right, it says the month is called after her name. Right, so these months are called after the moon. Right, so every moon, right, that's how you count your months. Right, it reads, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven, the beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. At the commandment of the Holy One, they stand in their order and never faint in their watches. Right, so the moon, right, it operates continually. Right, although the sun, it operates continually, right, and daily, right, at a quote unquote higher and continual peak. Right, now let's get into that real fast. All right, now this is the lunar calendar. It says any dating system based on a year consisting of synodic months, i.e. completed cycles of the phases of the moon. In every solar year or year of the seasons, there are about 12.37 synodic months. Therefore, if a lunar calendar is to be kept in step with the seasonal year, a periodic intercalation, which is addition of days, is necessary. Right, because the moon, it operates, right, so-called every 29.5 days. Okay, all right, that's why you can have so-called 2 months or 2 moons within the same month. Right, you could have a so-called new moon October 1st, right, and then you have another new moon October 30th or October 31st. Right, because the moons are what? They operate on a 12.37, right, basically, or almost a 12.4. And we know that you can't so-called have a so-called 4/10 of a month, right, or a third of a month. Okay, after so-called 4 so-called cycles, right, you're going to have to add an extra month. Okay, and we're going to prove that. Right, so Salaki, right, jumping down into this article. All right, it reads: lunar calendars remain in use among certain religious groups today. The Jewish calendar, which supposedly dates from 3,760 years and 3 months before the Christian era, is one example. BC. The Jewish religious year begins in autumn and consists of 12 months, alternating between 30 and 29 days. It allows for a leap year by following the Metonic cycle with an intercalary month in 7 years out of the 19. Another lunar calendar, the Islamic, dates from the Hijra, right, July 15th, 622 CE, the day on which the Prophet Muhammad began his migration from Mecca to Medina. It makes no effort to keep calendric and seasonal years together. Right, Console Slocking. Right, so the so-called lunar or your so-called monthly cycle based upon the moon, right? It's between 30 to 29 days, man. Right, which is again going into what? Right, the so-called, right, dealing with so-called half. Right, kind of. Let's get into this article. Right, it reads: a lunar calendar is a calendar based on the monthly cycles of the moon's phases, synodic months, lunations, in contrast to solar calendars, whose annual cycles are based on the solar year. Right, so these two calendars, right, are contrast, right, because again you have what? The sun, which is greater, which is the greater light, right, which is seen daily, right, and then you also have what? The moon, which is the lesser light. Right, it reads: the most widely observed purely lunar calendar is the Islamic calendar. A purely lunar calendar is distinguished from a lunisolar calendar, whose lunar months are brought into alignment with the solar year through some process of intercalculation, such as by intercession of a leap month. The details of when months begin vary from calendar to calendar, with some using new full or crescent moons and others employing detailed calculations. All right, I'm gonna just jump down. Right, reads: since each lunation is approximately 29 and 1/2 days, it is common for the months of a lunar calendar to alternate between 29 and 30 days. Since the period of 12 such lunations, a lunar year is 354 days, 8 hours, 48 minutes, 34 seconds. Purely lunar calendars are 11 to 12 days shorter than the solar year, and purely lunar calendars which do not make use of intercalation, the lunar month cycle, through all the seasons of a solar year over the course of a 33 right through 34 lunar year cycle, man. Okay, right, so roughly the so-called lunar year is 354 0.11 days. Right, and this is for your lunar calendar. right? Slocky. Right, so-called 300, right? So-called 11, right? 11 plus 25, right? That's so-called 36, Slocky. Right, 36, right? 0.9, right? 1, right? So 719 days, right? 719, right? 0.36 days. Right, now understanding so-called, right, that these aren't separate days, that they're operating within 1 year, have to divide by 2. All right, so-called 719 divided by 36, it's like divide by 2, right? You get roughly 359.68 days. Right? Which ironically what? Right? Coincides with the Hebrew year. Right? Which is why you need to understand, right, the difference between the lunar calendar, right, the solar calendar, and the luni-solar calendar, right, which is in line with the Hebraic calendar, right? It reads, a luni-solar calendar is a calendar in many cultures. Combining lunar calendars and solar calendars, the date of luni-solar calendars therefore indicates both the moon phase and the time of the solar year. That is the position of the sun in the earth's sky, right? If the sidereal year is used instead of the solar year, then the calendar will predict the constellation near which the full moon may occur. As with all calendars which divide the year into months, is an additional requirement that the year have a whole number of months, right? In some cases, ordinary years which consist of 12 months, but every second or third year is an embolismic year, which adds a 13th intercalary embolismic or leap month. Right, so when you understand, right, how our forefathers kept, right, the solar calendar, the lunar calendar, right, there was always an understanding of a 13th intercalary month, right, or how you have in Babylon a so-called leap month. Right now, Shalaki. Right now, let's prove that. Right, let's go to the classic precepts. All right, let's go to the classic precepts. All right, let's go to the classic precepts of Genesis. All right, the book of Genesis, chapter 7 and verse number 11. It reads, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Right? Jumping down just to get to the point, right, of the waters prevailing upon the earth. It reads in Genesis 7 and 24. It reads, and the waters prevailed upon the earth in 150 days. Right, so for 150 days, right, what? The waters did what? They prevailed upon the earth. Right, now this is what? The second month, right? The 17th day of the second month. Right, and from 150 days, there was water what? Upon the earth. Right, now let's go to the book, Slocky. Let's go to the next chapter. Right? Next chapter. Right, and it reads, it's like Genesis 8:4. It reads, and the ark rested the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Arad. Right, so from the second day, so from the 17th day of the 2nd month unto the 17th day of the 7th month, right, the waters had prevailed upon the earth, right, for 150 days. Right, we know that 7 minus 2 equals what? 5. Right, so that gives you what? 5 months. Right, now how do you divide how many so-called days that this was? You divide it by what? The months, which is what? 5 months. So that gives you what? 30 days. Right, 30 days per month. Right, 30 days per month. Right, now let's go to the book of 1 Kings. Let's go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 4. All right, 1 Kings, chapter 4, and verse number 7. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household, each man his month in a year made provision. Right, so Solomon had what? Had 12 officers. Right, and these officers were for each month in a year. Right, so you go back, okay, do the math. All right, multiply X. Just like X, 12. All right, months per year, which gives you what? Right, quick math. Right, 12 times 3 equals what? 36. Right, since it's 30, you add the 0 at the end, which gives you what? 360 days per year. Right, per year. Right, so lining up the solar calendar, right, or have the understanding, right, of the lunar solar calendar, our forefathers kept 360 days per year, right, and equal 30 days for each year, right, which lines up with what? Right, with the lunar solar calendar. Right, now if we were again to do what? To subtract 365, right, 0.25 minus 354.11, right, you will have 11.14 days. 11.14 days, right, missing. If you only follow the lunar calendar, right? If you only follow the lunar calendar, following only lunar, right? Now multiply that times what? Times 3. Right? Times 3. Slug with the X at. Slugging. Times 3. Right, slug it on 3 times 4 is 14 is 42. So you'll have 33.42 days after 3 years. Which equals equals 1 month .42 days. So literally, right, if you did not factor in, right, because again, your sun, it does what? Your sun, it controls and dictates your days, right? Yet the moon, it does what? It dictates your feast. Right? So after 3 years, your whole feast and your seasons, if you follow only the moon, they will literally be out of whack, right? Or out of course. All right. That's why even touching on that point, right, that I brought out from the solar calendar, right, how their feast, right, or how their seasons, they what? However, cause right, the Egyptians' failure to account for the extra fraction of a day, however, caused their calendar to drift gradually into error. Right now, how much more, right, your feast days, man? Right, how much more now, right? Instead of you keeping, right, the Pentecost, right, during the time of summer, right, during the time is time for you to gather. Hey, eventually, right, you're going to be keeping Pentecost in winter, right? You're going to be keeping tabernacles, right, in the damn spring, man, right, summertime, right? Hey, which the Lord commanded us to do what? To keep the seasons in their feast, right? Let's get that in the law. Shalaki. All right, let's get that in Leviticus chapter 23. Right? Leviticus chapter 23 and verse number 4. It reads, "These are the seasons of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons." Right? So you can't just keep the Passover whenever you feel like it, man. Right, you can't just kick back and say, well, you know what, I'm just gonna decide to, keep the, Purim, during the fall, just because I feel like it, hey, I'm gonna keep destruction of Nicanor, the day of Simon, all, out of whack, or as some men, hey, I'm just gonna declare these certain days, right, or certain feasts, right, just gonna declare them so-called just because I feel like it, man. Right now you got a so-called tabernacles, right? You got Passover, right? You got the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? When it's when it's leaves falling, man. Right now, every so-called day is a so-called holy day, man. Right now, you're making this day Yahushua Day, man. Right, which is madness, man, and folly. Right. So the Lord said, what? It says, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season, man. Right. So every feast day, right, or every a holy day, man, right, has a specific season. Okay, let's get that in the book of Genesis 8:22. It reads, "While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest." Right, so seed time is what? It's a time for you to plant. Right, so it's a time for you to till the ground, make sure you got your soil right tender to, that way your seeds and crops, they may grow thereby, man. And harvest time, right? There's a time to come and to harvest the ground. Right, it says, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease, man. Right, so the Lord, he has a time, right, of seed time, right, which is what? Your spring, right, when everything is coming back into life. Right, hey, the Lord has your harvest time, right, which is going into what? Right, the time of fall, right, the time where things are starting to, leaves are starting to fall, right. Your summertime, man, right, when everything is at its so-called apex, right, it's flourishing, it's blooming, right, it's heat, right, and then you got your so-called wintertime, right, things are are at its lowest, man. Right? It's frozen. Right? Everything is dead. Right? Everything is shut down, man. Right? It's all shut up. Okay. Right now, let's go to the book of Exodus. Right? Because the chief, right, holy day, right, is what? Right? Passover. Right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 1, 12 and verse number 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Right? So that first month of the year is what? Right? Let's go to the book of Exodus. Okay. Exodus chapter 13 and verse and verse 3. It reads, and Moses said unto the people, remember this day which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand of the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no unleavened bread be eaten. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. Right, so the first month is what? It's the month of Abib. Right? And the Most High, he declared what? That this shall be the first month unto you. Right now, let's go to that word right in Exodus. Right, Exodus chapter 13 and verse number 4. Right, reads, right, Hebrew word H24, right, a young ear of grain, hence the name of the month Abib or Nisan, ear, green ears of corn, right? It says fresh, young barley ears, barley, right? The month of ear forming, of greening of crop, of growing green, month of Exodus and Passover. Right, so the barley, right, or right, so the barley, right, or the fresh greenness of crops, man, it only comes or starts in what? The springtime. Okay, not the time of winter. Okay, not the so-called, right, the so-called the so-called fall time, right? The forming of the ear, it takes place during the spring. All right, let me get another precept on this too. All right, let's jump down to Exodus 34. All right, Exodus chapter 34 and verse 18. It reads, the feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep 7 days. Thou shalt eat the unleavened bread as I command thee in the time of the month Abib. For in the month Abib thou camest out from Egypt. Right, so you can only eat the Passover, right, during the month of Abib, man. Right? Right, or during that a time, right? Right, you can't eat the Passover or have the feast of unleavened bread during the fall, right? During the summer, okay. During the time of winter, man. Okay, right. The Most High commanded, right, that the Passover, or the feast of unleavened bread be kept, right, during the month or in the time of Abib. All right. Let's go to, right, the book of Ruth. All right, let's go to the book of Ruth, chapter 2. And I'm gonna start at verse 21. It reads, "And Ruth the Moabitess said, he said unto me, thou shalt keep my fast, thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz, to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of the wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother and in-law." Right, so no man is able to so-called glean, right? You go take your scythe, right? Take your sickle, okay? Collect your so-called gather in your so-called buckets, man, right? To go out and to collect, right? During, right, the so-called damn fall, man, right? Or during the time of winter, man, right? That's why you even have certain crops or certain foods, right? Certain fruits that men that they may desire, such as cucumbers, right? Melons, man, right? These things are only able to be kept or grown, right, during certain times of the a year, man, right? You have your barley harvest, which is what, right? Which is during the time of spring, man, right? And then you have your wheat harvest, right, which is going into what, right? The end, right, of the a so-called summer, right? That so-called a fall time, right? That's coming in, right? Let's touch on that in the book of 1 Samuel, right? Book of 1 Samuel, okay, chapter 6. God. 1 Samuel chapter 6 and verse number 13. It reads, "And they of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley, and they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, and rejoiced to see it," man. Right, so during that time of your wheat harvest, man, right? That time of your end gathering, right? Which is again, which is going towards, right, your Feast of Weeks, right? Which is also called the Feast of Pentecost, man. Right, that's the time, right, where your so-called crops, right, or your so-called stock, right, is at its so-called a highest, man. Right. You bring in, right, the height of the increase that the Most High has given you, right, during the Feast of Tabernacles, man, right, which was also known as the Feast of Booths, right, to bring in, right, the end, right, or the abundance that the Most High has blessed you with throughout the whole entire year, man, right, of you laboring, toiling, man, right, putting in the work in, man. All right, let's go back to that in the book of Exodus, the 34th chapter. All right, Exodus chapter 34. All right, let's prove that. Exodus chapter 34 and verse number 20. It reads, "But the firstling," right? "But the firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. And if thou redeem him not, then shalt thou break his neck. All the firstborn of thy sons thou shalt redeem, and none shall appear before me empty. 6 days shalt thou work, but on the 7th day thou shalt rest. In earing time and in harvest thou shalt rest." Right? During that earing time, man, right, when things are blossoming, man, right, blooming, man, right, during that feast of unleavened bread, right? Hey, after you've been breaking up the ground, right, making sure all things were planted, right, inside of its due season, man, right? You making sure that all things are able to grow thereby, man, right? And when what, man? Hey, when it's time for you to harvest and to come and collect from all of your labor that ye have done, right? And now, right, during the time of winter, man, right, you're not being destroyed, man, right? You're not freezing, man, right, or begging, right, because you've done the work and done the labor thereof, man. It reads, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and in the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Thrice in the year shall all your men, children, appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. Right, so 3 times a year, right, during that feast of unleavened bread, right, that feast of fruits, right, also known as the feast of weeks. Okay, right, and right, the feast of ingathering, right, at the end of the a year, man, right, which is your feast of booths, right, or your feast of tabernacles, man, right. You should not appear before the Lord empty, man, right, because you've labored, you've toiled, man, right, and the Most High, right, has given you, right, a reward for your labor thereof, man. All right, let's go to the book of Genesis. All right, so understanding, right, so understanding, right, the moon, right, so or understanding the feast and how to keep them, man, right, is based upon, right, our forefathers, man, right, and based upon agriculture. Okay, right now, right, the book of Genesis, chapter 30 and verse number 14, it reads, and Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, thy sons mandrakes, man. Right, so mandrakes, right, are only found, right, or only growing or coming to fruition, or coming to fruition, right, during, right, the time of the wheat harvest, man, right, and blossom when, right, and near that so-called autumn season. Right, let's go to it. All right, Salaki. All right, mandrakes. See that? Salaki, bear with me. Folly. Okay, calm. Salaki, bear with me. Salaki. Right, now it reads, it says, mandrake is a powerful narcotic, right, eminent sedative and hallucinogen, right. Its poisons can easily lead to death. It reads, blue blossoms and flowering period of the autumn mandrake, right, are 2 main differences between this species and officiate, right, right, so it says, for thousands of years this plant was revered by many cultures, which describe its mysterious and quote-unquote qualities. Mandrake is mentioned in the Bible, and its biblical use is generally attributed to its supposed fertility power, man. Right, so when you deal with these mandrakes, right, they particularly, right, grew or came to fruition and fully blossomed, right, during that time of the wheat harvest, man. Right, during that late summer, right, slash early fall, man. Right, and we know that Rachel was barren, right, and was seeking, right, and was seeking to become impregnated by Jacob. Right, so even understanding certain crops and certain plants, right, that our forefathers and foremothers use, right, they only blossom or bloom, right, during certain parts of the year, right. And again, nothing is coming during the time of winter. Well, let's get that in the Wisdom of Solomon. All right, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16, and verse number 27. It reads, "For that which was not destroyed of the fire, being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away, that it might be known that we must prevent the sun to give thee thanks, and at the day spring pray unto thee." Right, on a spiritual level, or slocking, right, on a spiritual level, right, going into, right, the Most High protecting us from judgment. Right, yeah. Although on a physical level, what the sun, right, it melts the so-called snow, right, the ice, right, it gives heat and warmth and cover, right. It's so-called right, everything that was frozen, okay, everything that was so-called affected by the wintertime, the ground, everything starts to come anew. Right, it reads verse 29, "For the hope of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter's hoar frost, and shall run away as unprofitable water," man. Right, so during the wintertime, you got what? Frost. Right, everything is frozen, everything is dead. Right, there's nothing growing. Right, there's no so-called leaves, man. Right, there's no quote unquote cherry blossoms, man. Right, there's no pine trees, man. Right, everything is falling and dead. It's frozen. Right, shut up, man. Right, branches are breaking, right, and falling. Right, and what it says, "For the hope of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter's hoar frost, and shall run away as unprofitable water," man. Right, so all the water, man, is even frozen, man. Right, the water in the so-called ground is frozen, man. It's dried up. Right, there's nothing profitable, right, during that time of winter. Right, which again, that's why the Lord said that the sluggard shall what? Right, that he shall not plow, man, and shall beg in the harvest. Right, just Proverbs 20 verse 4. "The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold." Right, and no one, right, no man that's not being circumspect, right, no man that's not being diligent, right, even on, right, or attending to matters of husbandry, man. Right, he's not going to go and plow, right, because it's cold, man. Right, and you have to go plow, man. You have to perform tillage, right, of the ground, man. Right, you got to go break up the dirt, man. Right, break up the field, right. Make sure that things are starting to open up and able to breathe, so that way when that spring does come in, man, right, once that sun starts to beam, man, right, coming into the time of spring, man, right, your ground is unfrozen, man, right, and you gotta wait all so-called spring, right, and wait partially of the summer, right, to now you're finally able to get your so-called crops, and seeds planted, man. Right, no, you gotta plow early, right, but the sluggard, he's not going to plow by reason of the cold. Reading on, "Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing," man. right? So when everyone is feasting and rejoicing, man, right, you're not going to have nothing, man. And then you're going to starve during that time of winter, man, right? Because now, by not laboring, not having all things in season, and out of course, all things are going to be destroyed and overthrown. Right, let's go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 28. Right, Isaiah chapter 28 and verse number 4. It reads, "And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, and as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he looketh upon it, seeth while it is yet in his hand, eateth it up," man. All right, Slocking. I'm gonna read that again. It says, "And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, and as the hasty fruit before the summertime." Right, so during the summertime, right, everything is moving at a haste, man. Right, you can cut the grass, right, down 3 days ago, right, and now you got a whole forest, man. Right now it's knee high, man. Right, you may plant something, right? You know, you may have the so-called right dirt, got your soil, man. Right, got your water, man. Right, making sure you're adding your nutrients, man. Okay, and all things to help, right, to help the fruits and vegetables to grow thereby healthy and strong and expedient, man. Hey, these things are hasty during the time of summer, man. All right, let's go to the book of Jeremiah real fast. All right, Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse number 4. It reads, right, "Because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain, and the earth, the plowmen were ashamed, they covered their heads," man. Right, and a ground that is chapped is what? It's destroyed. Right, it's broken down. Right, but not in a good way, man. Okay. Right, and during the time of a winter, man. Right, during the time of of the cold season, man. Right, these things aren't able to grow, right, or aren't able to flourish, man. Right, it says, "Yea, the hind also calved in the field, and forsook it because there was no grass," man. Right, and there's no so-called barley, man. Right, there's no so-called wheat, man. There's no grapes, right? No fruit, right? That's springing up, right, during the time of winter time. Right, just getting into the seriousness and sincerity, or and sincerity of these different seasons. All right, and when you have your feast, right, or your months and times, right, out of season, right, how it can even affect, right, your whole harvest, right, how it can affect your whole year, man. Right, if you do not keep all things in order and keep all things in season. Okay. Right now, Slocky, I'm gonna get one more in this. All right, just touching on the seed time, right, touching on the so-called harvest time, right, touching on the summer, right, and touching on the winter time. All right, that's the book of Job chapter 30 and verse number 22. "Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hill, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? By what way is the light parted, which scattereth the east upon the earth? Who had divided the water course for the overflowing of waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder?" Slocky. "Or the way of the lightning and thunder, right, to cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man, to satisfy the desolate and to waste the ground, and to cause it to bud the tender herb to spring forth. Hath the rain a father, or who have begotten the drops of dew, out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven, who hath gendered it? The waters are hid with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Right, so the Most High, man, he controls all things in season, man. Right, it's like he sends forth the water, man, right, to make sure, right, that the herbs, the plants, man, bro, are able to spring forth inside of their course, man. Okay, right, to make sure that all things are able to grow up, right, and that the water flows, right, mightily, man, throughout the streams of the earth thereby, man. Right, it says that, and what? Or it says, and that the waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen, man. Right, so if you don't plow, if you don't till, man, right, that so-called water, right, that is in the ground, in the dirt, it becomes frozen. All right, slocky. Right now, let's go back to this. Right, because again, right, so you must keep all things in season, man. Slocky. Right, you must keep slocky. Right, you must keep all, right, of your feasts in season, man. Right, in no sense, right, shall your feast, right, be out of ordinance. Right, right, so, right, again, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse number 15. But thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the fruit, in the feast of harvest, the feast, in the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field, 3 times, 3 times in the year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord thy God, man. Right, so in no sense or wise, man, shall any man appear before the Most High God empty, man. Right, and again, right, all feasts, right, must be kept in its appointed season. Right, so again, if you're, again, according to, right, the lunisolar calendar, right, lunisolar calendar, right, you got what, 360 days. Okay, right, again, that 365 days, right, 0.25, that's your solar year. Right, your 354.11 days, that's your lunar year. Right. Right now, when you add them together, right, that's 719.36 divided by 2. Right, that's your 359.68 days, or 359.7. And we know that you cannot have a point of a day, so called, right, or anything above 5. You do what? You round up, which gives you your 360 days of a year. Although, again, your sun operates off of a different system, right, than your moon, right? Now, if your moon operates, right, off of 354, right, then within a year that is dictated by the sun, you would be what? You would be 11 days short, or missing 11 days, right? Which is why that after every 3rd or 4th year, you have to do what? Add another month, right? You get that 13th month added thereby, right? So like, and just going to get a few more. It's like a few more to touch on, and then going to close up. Right, dealing with the harvest. It's like dealing with the harvest moons, right, and different moons, which helps you dictate these months, right? So this is from the Farmer's Almanac, right, or the almanac.com, right, and the harvest moon is chiefly, right, that big so-called orange moon that you see during the fall time, right? Because again, our forefathers, right, they had the moon, right, which helped them, right, dictate certain times of the year, right? Your harvest moon came when? During the time of the end harvest, right? That's why chiefly around that Feast of Tabernacles, right, you see that big, huge moon, right? Because as the days are starting to begin to get shorter, or as you're getting less so-called sunlight, right? That's the Most High showing that mercy and giving you a bigger moon with more light to let you know that it's time, right, for you to gather in, right, all your crops for the end of the year is coming in. Okay, so Slacky, right? So I'm gonna read these two paragraphs, right? And again, and this is from the almanac.com, right? Which again, brothers and sisters are open to receiving this information. It reads, when is the harvest moon? It reads, this year the brilliant harvest moon first appears in the evening of Thursday, September 28th, before reaching the peak illumination at 5:58 a.m. on Friday, September 29th. It says, one thing that sets the harvest moon apart from other full moon names is that it's not associated with a specific month, as the others are. Instead, the harvest moon relates to the timing of the autumn equinox, with the moon, it's like with the full moon that occurs nearest to the equinox being the one to take on the name harvest moon, right? It reads, this means that the harvest moon can occur in either September or October, depending on how the lunar cycle lines up with the Gregorian calendar, right? So again, depending on how the moon, right, is operating, right, or is coming in, right, that determines your so-called fall, right? And now there's a time of end gathering, right, for you to gather in your crops, right? And it's going to explain that, right? It says, why is it called the harvest moon? For several evenings, the moon rise comes soon after sunset. This results in an abundance of bright moonlight early in the morning, which was a traditional aid to farmers and crews harvesting their summer-grown crops. Hence, it's called the harvest moon, right? So again, this moon, right? It's the Most High uses it, right, for, right, man to be able to see, right, during the certain time that they may have lost, from, right, the ending of the sunlight or light that they were receiving from the summertime, and now it's time for you to gather in your crops thereof, right? Because what? Because your year is now coming unto an end. All right. Okay, let me get two more. All right. The blue moon. All right. Slocky. Right. It reads the blue moon. Right. Blue moon. Right. It reads the second full moon in a calendar month. The period from one full moon to another is about 29.5 days. So when two occur in the same month, the first of these full moons is always on the first or second day of the month. February, which only has 29 days in leap years, can never have a blue moon. Months with 31 days, January, March, May, July, August, October, and December, have a much better chance of hosting a blue moon because of their length. On average, a blue moon occurs once every 33 months, or full moons 41 times per century, or about 7 times every 19 years. An even rarer event when 2 blue moons happen in the same calendar year, which happens about 4 times per century. Right, so even your so-called blue moons, it happens when? Right, about every so-called, right, 33, right, so-called 33 months, right, or every so-called 3 years, right, every quote-unquote leap year, man. All right, slog it. Now let me get one more before I close out. Right, so types of moons, right, so you have, right, your full moons, right, which takes place monthly, right, again, your harvest moon, right, we just touched on the quote-unquote harvest moon, right, your so-called pink moon, right, so-called comes in, right, during the time of spring, right, it's a time of blossoming, man, right, you also got, right, your so-called blood moon, right, which is your time of right, which is the Most High given signs, right, and wonders thereof, man. Right, your so-called strawberry moons, right, which is again signs from the Most High that come during that so-called time of during the so-called time of summer, right, Slakia, right, and you also got your what, right, quote-unquote, right, wolf moons, right, which these moons generally come, right, they say, like during the that time of winter, right, so you may see certain or different types of moons, right, which the Most High has set up or distinguished for different times of the seasons and different times of the year, right, right, but with that, right, brother Atazwan Gabar, y'all coming back at you these precepts, and yet another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Mashak, Wamalak, Yahweh Shai to the Dakia. Hope this lesson was very edifying, and again, right, a very detailed, in-depth understanding of the moon, right, understanding of agriculture, right, and understanding, right, of our people, right. Let me get a precept, right, just to close out with that, man. Right, the book of Job, chapter 8, verse 8, it reads, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee, and tell thee, and utter words out of their heart," man. Right, so, Shalaki, right, so just understanding, right, going back and understanding our forefathers, right, understanding the Most High, right, understanding how even the scriptures, right, from Genesis to Malachi, right, from First Ezra to Second Maccabees, right, from Saint Matthew all the way to the book of Revelation, right, how the Most High uses, right, being a husbandry, right, farm work, right, planting, sowing, right, watering, each other, right, growth, right, how all these things are even lammy back, right, and contrast, right, with agriculture, right. We see how our forefathers, the Most High, teaches us, right, how to keep things in order, right, how we keep things in season, right, and have the full understanding, right, of understanding these months and times and years that we live in. So with that, again, brother Gabar, y'all coming back into these precepts, giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Shema Mashak, Wamalak, Wadanya, Yahweh Shai to the Dog of the righteous. Hope this lesson was extremely edifying. And with that, I want to say shalom. Shalom.